we're going to do 2, 4, and 2, 5 together, multiplying and dividing integers. And like I said before, we're going to do this because they have the same rules. Okay? And then some of us already kind of started, I'm going to skip that. Some of us already started to write the rules down. So if you don't have the rules down, this is where you can continue. Okay? So if you have two of the same sign, so 2 positives, 2 negatives, your answer is always going to be positive. If you have 2 different signs, your answer is going to be negative. So, for example, those of you who have this written down already, I'm just going to kind of show you. So if I have a positive and I'm multiplying a positive, my answer is going to be positive. If I have a negative and multiplying a negative, my answer is going to be positive. Okay? And that works for, if there was a division sign in there too. Right here, if I'm doing a I'm going to erase that. If I do a positive times a negative, my answer is going to be negative. And same thing if I do a negative times a positive, my answer is going to be negative. And I could also put a division sign in there too. So just kind of remember, I always kind of remember if I have 2 the same, my answer is positive, that's a good thing. I always think 2 the same, that's a good thing, positive. If I have 2 different things, it's negative, so it's a negative answer. That's how I kind of remember them. So. They'll figure it out. They should have written it down. I hope they wrote it down. That's all right. They'll figure it out. Then they'll have 2 assignments tomorrow. I think we're working on chapter review already. So yeah, they'll have a. Yep, probably Thursday. This is not a long chapter. This isn't a long chapter. All right, so here's just a visual that I made so you can see kind of what's going on a little bit if you're more of a visual person. See how see if I have 2 of the same sign, my answer is positive. Let me move this little guy. And if I have 2 different signs, my answer is negative, and that goes for division too. So division is the same. You don't have to write this down if you don't want, but can I go to the next slide? You guys okay with that? You want to wait? Okay. What's that? And division. They're for both. Yep. So if I would put a division sign in here, let's say I would go backwards and I would do 12 divided by 3, my answer is going to be 4. Positives, right? If I do negative 12 divided by negative 4, let's do 3, I guess. My answer is going to be negative 4. If I do negative 12 divided by 4, my answer is going to be negative 3. What? But I got it right? That's right. And then if I do, let's see, negative 12 divided by negative 4, my answer is going to be 3. Yep. Oh, my goodness. It's a long day. Any questions on this? This is pretty self-explanatory. All right, let's do some of these together. So the first time I look at it is up here, negative 9 times 2. And I can look at this and tell if it's positive or negative right away. What is it going to be? It's going to be negative because I have a negative and a positive. It's going to be a negative 18. Okay? What about this one? Positive or negative? Positive 25. Now, these over here, notice I have 3 digits. I don't care what you do. If you do the negatives first, or if you go from left to right. I like to go from left to right because I do that so I know I get every number. Okay? So like here, if I take negative 6 times 2, I'm going to get negative 12. And then I'm going to multiply that negative 3. Okay? Positive 36. Okay? And then this one right here, I would do negative 8 times negative 3, and I would get 24. Okay? Any questions on those rules? Everybody always asks me, is this the thing where 2 negatives make a positive? This is the thing where 2 negatives make a positive. Everybody asks me that. So. Yep. Well, we're going to use this stuff a lot more coming up. That's why it's the second chapter. So. All right, so the other thing I was kind of starting to explain to the other gentleman, is this going to work back there? Are we going to have to split you 2 up? Okay, then knock it off. Knock it off. So the next thing, and I was kind of showing the other boys a little bit, now you're going to have variables, okay? If I were you, I'd write some of these examples down in your notebook if you don't already have them, because this is the new part to you. So this one right here, we kind of did already. I'm going to go over to this one right here, okay? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to worry about my numbers. I'm going to multiply my numbers together. I'm not going to worry about those variables yet. So I'm going to take negative 4 times negative 2, and I get 8. And then, do we know what those variables are? It doesn't say A equals whatever, B equals whatever. We don't know that. So what we have to do is we just have to put them onto the end, because this is simplifying it as much as possible. If we knew what A and B were, could we solve those? Could we solve that and get an answer? But we can't. So this is as far as we possibly can go in this problem. When they say simplify, they want you to get it as down as far as you can go. Okay, that's what simplify means. I told them before too. There we go. Do you see how I have variables here that don't have anything with them? Put a 1 with it. Put a 1 with it. Remember, I always say lonely variable, give it a 1, because otherwise you forget about it. So if I were you, I would rewrite these 1c and then negative 1b. I would always put a 1, because a 1 doesn't change that variable, does it? Does nothing to it. Now, what you do is you worry about your numbers and then your letters. So 3 times 1 is 3, times negative 1 is negative 3, and then A, C, B. And usually they have them in alphabetical order. But is A, C, B the same as B, A, C? It's the same as A, B, C. It's the same, just if you're multiplying. Yes, you're right. Commutative property multiplication. It doesn't matter. You can move them everywhere you want. Nice job. Okay, so this one over here, let's do this one together too. Okay, so I have negative 5, and then 1c, negative 3, negative 1d. I'm just going to say again, does a 1 change the variable? Because let's say I said this was, c was 3. Anything times 1 is itself, right? So that's why 1 does not change any of those. Now start to do your math. So let's do 5 times 1 is negative 5. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15. Positive 15 times this last negative 1 is negative 15. So that's why it's so important to put those ones in. Otherwise, you wouldn't remember to multiply by them. And you have to remember to multiply by them, because does that change like your negative and positive signs? Yeah, it changes your positive and negative signs. You have to remember to multiply those by those ones. And then CD on the end. Okay? So important to put those ones. Kenzie, are we better now? Very good. Questions on how to do this? Okay, I'm going to give you one, and I want you to do it by yourself, okay? So let's do this. That's fine. Do that one for me. So when you rewrote it, wow, that's a lot of negatives. It's a lot of negatives. One by one. Okay, so negative 6 times negative 1, 6. Or positive 6 times negative 1, negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 2 is 12. And then we have this. Okay, so don't forget your C and your D, because that's also part of your answer. That's also part of the answer. They're just the guys we don't know about, but we have to include them. Questions on this? Okay. The next thing I want to talk about quick is division, but division has the same rules. So if I look at this, I say 72 divided by negative 9. First of all, is it a positive or negative answer? Negative answer. Just a negative 8. Okay. If I look at this one, positive or negative answer? Positive 20. Okay. Down here, they're going to put in some letters, but they're going to tell you what the variable is, what it is this time. Woohoo! Yeah, so if I were you, what am I going to tell you to do? Rewrite the problem. Rewrite the problem in your homework. So negative 3, and they're telling me n is negative 6, divided by negative 2. First multiply them, you're right. You get a positive 18. Yep, positive 18 divided by negative 2, you get a negative 9. Nice job. Nice job. I feel like this is review of what we did like last chapter. And then this one over here would be negative 10 times 4 divided by negative 8. I'm going to do these two first. Negative 40. Very good. Any questions on this? Pretty simple. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is how to find the average or the mean of something again. You already know how to do this, but to throw in some negative numbers at you can make it just a little more difficult. What is the average again? Okay, it's all of them added together, divided by how many numbers are. And if you think about it, that's how we find your grade. Like for your assignments, we add all your assignments together and how many are out of possible, and then divide by how many assignments are. That's how we find your grade, pretty much. Okay? Or your average. So to do that, like Maddie and whoever else said, I think Riley said, you're going to add all these together, and then you're going to divide by how many numbers there are. How many numbers are up there? I think 6. Do it in your homework. Do it in your notebook and see what you get for an answer. Nope. You're adding, and then you're dividing. So it's the easiest thing, honestly, to add like the negatives first, and then add your positives. Here, that to me is the easiest thing to do. Add them together, so it's going to be this, this, this. I'm not telling you. But it comes out evenly. It comes out evenly. No, 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 don't ask. Yep, you add them all together and divide by how many numbers are. Yep. You add them. You always add them when you find the average. Yep. You're going to find the average. You're going to add them. You don't multiply them. You add them together, and then you divide by how many numbers there are. So do we need to write that in your notebook? Maybe? Add together. And then divide by number of numbers, I guess. That makes sense? So did you add your negatives first? That's what I would do. I would add this one and this one and this one. Look. Yep, my negative 9. And you should get, yep, negative 25. You're right. And then what's this together equal? Plus 13. And then you get negative 12. And then you divide by 6. And it should be negative 2 would be your average. Yep. Okay, now one thing I want to show you before we are done here. And I'm going to just show you another average problem, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to show you something. You got 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Okay, so she has scores. She went golfing, and she has scores of negative 3, negative 2, 1, and 0. And this is during 4 rounds of golf. Okay? To find her average, what am I going to do? Add them all together, right? How many numbers do I have up there? 4. Okay, some people think that if there's a 0 in there, that does not count. That still counts as a number. So you still have to include that in your 4 numbers that you divide by. Does that make sense? Some people would say divide by 3. They're like, well, 0 is not a number. That doesn't count. It still counts. You still have to count 0. Yep, it's a number on the number line, so you still have to count it. Oh, we're not going to start that. Not going to start that.